From the abundant waters and forests to the otherworldly tops of the once active volcanoes. Hawaii, with its many biomes, offers a variety of ecosystematic potential, with a fertile opportunity for those who have an affinity for luxury gardening and tropical or subtropical exotic fruit tree collections. On these islands, a 3-year project has just been completed. This nature sanctuary, wildlife preservation center, and fusion architecture site allows visitors to bask in the pleasure of simple yet sophisticated natural living. The Minimalist dream home and space of love is surrounded by a living fence of a variety of rare and common banana species. Unique varieties such as apple bananas, Bluefield, truly tiny dessert bananas, Chinese dwarf, plantain, blue ice cream bananas, and red Cubans share their bounty for much of the year. In addition, this particular landscape has successfully grown a variety of annual and perennial vegetables and fruits, from using gentle, self-sustaining farming practices and virtually no external inputs. Everything cultivated on the property has been mulched with an abundance of decomposing local wood and food scraps. Plenty of wild foods and edible flowers have blessed the land as well. The parcel is also a child's playground with a plethora of organic areas for food foraging, barefoot enjoyment, and toddler explorations. My husband and I, with the help of our 3 incredible kids, partook in an inspired vision to create a homestead experience with hand-built natural shelters that are a blend of indigenous and old-fashioned technologies with contemporary conveniences. First, I will discuss the ecological portion of the land, and then I will share about the building project. When we first got to the land, we poured all of our energy into planting as much food as possible, covering old decaying eucalyptus stumps with dragon fruit and utilizing our bigger open areas to create a variety of botanical systems. In all, we planted hundreds of fruit trees and shrubs. We've created everything from multi-story agroforestry zones of densely interplanted tropical foods to conventional orcharding, open areas, and edible landscaping. We have rare cherry varieties, citrus, lychee, Malabar chestnuts, white sapote, lemon meringue pie fruit, peanut butter fruit, chico sapodilla, also known as brown sugar fruit, egg fruit, and more in lower and upper plazas. We also have several papaya forests and clusters of different varieties, some even bigger than an adult's head. There's also a young vineyard with over 20 grape plants, which has provided some nice afternoon morsels. Additionally, we planted pineapple patches and have several varieties growing throughout the property. There are pigeon pea trees, which provide delicious edible raw and cooked peas year-round. Plenty of tomatoes, some tasting like Campbell's soup and others with a deep, rich, earthy flavor. Tons of taro or kalo, which is the native Hawaiian staple. Lilikoi, black raspberries and mulberries, strawberries, macadamia nuts, chocolate persimmon fruit trees, pumpkin pie persimmons, green, purple, red, and brown figs, dozens of loquat trees, which taste like a mix between apple, melon, and grape, wild peaches, pomegranates, guavas, and the traditional Hawaiian opo squash. This squash is delicious on its own raw or steamed like zucchini when picked young. If left on the vine, they harden and they turn into wonderful vessels to be used as watering cans or storage, or to be made into instruments. We also have some very healing plants and trees such as soursop, narrow-leafed plantain, Cuban oregano, mamaki or Hawaiian nettle, wild fennel, plenty of nasturtium, cranberry hibiscus, and several varieties of clover. 1/4 of the total land acreage of this project has been for cultivation of the orchard spaces and living areas, and the other 3/4 has been set aside for undisturbed nature preservation. One more aspect of the land use to share would be this lignothermal hot water system. We noticed each evening as we watched the sunset that our compost piles would put off steam, and wondered how we could utilize the heat from this decomposition to our advantage. So we layered hundreds of feet of piping on top of each other in about 5 separate layers until it was buried in a mountain of warmth. So far, this system has produced free hot water for over 3 years now, with practically no maintenance or additions. It provides warm water for bathing, dishes, laundry, and even for our birthing tub. Now I will share about what we call our fusion architectural endeavors. On this parcel, my husband and I built 2 main structures. One of them we call our heart, and the other we call our soul. With the exception of a borrowed battery-powered drill, this entire land and building project was done in bare feet with a few hand tools and the playful and patient help of our children alongside us. The heart is a sheltered picnic and food storage area. The main skeleton is an extremely strong teepee of forked timbers and intertwined without the need of fasteners. After it was built, it was covered with impermeable membranes, mulch, and seedlings of a hardy grass-like succulent. Dragon fruit was then planted at the base and will eventually take over the structure. The soul can be described as a minimalist tiny house or an observatory for a meditative nature retreat. The structure is resting on a foundation of stone from the land. Each eucalyptus and wattle tree was harvested in our forest by my husband with an axe. We hiked everyone up the hill into our storage piles where they waited to be hand-peeled and sawn to length. After drying for a year, we further chiseled and filed them to fit in the traditional way to create a solid structure held together with just a few handfuls of fasteners and wooden pegs. On the day the structure was raised, we used wooden forked tripods to temporarily support the timbers while we secured them in place. This 12-sided dodecagon post and beam has 13 large eucalyptus posts, 12 beams, and 48 wattle rafters. Once the framework was in place, we covered the building with synthetic and non-synthetic materials to produce the overall outcome of an open and bright shelter. The top layers were then covered with mulch and more succulent ground cover, turning it into a light-duty living roof. 3 solid walls were made inside with untreated lumber, and little by little, the other 9 sides were enclosed with sliding glass doors. The dirt floor was diligently leveled by hand, and additional membranes were placed on the ground as moisture barriers, and then finished with interlocking planks. One more special piece to share is our bamboo wall. We visited the jungle where our first 2 children were born underneath a bamboo cluster and harvested it to make an exterior wall to commemorate their birthland. Fusing heirloom woodcrafting technology with modern synthetic materials allowed us to produce a subtropical shelter to use when the weather is not conducive. However, in this climate, your yard becomes your living room and the grass becomes your carpet. Overall, the whole creation and seamlessness of this indoor and outdoor living experience provides a child-safe, family-friendly display of craftsmanship and nature immersion. Throughout this project, we have learned so much and would now in retrospect do a lot differently. Nevertheless, we hope that in sharing this, some aspects of it can be intriguing or inspiring for those who want to live with the beauties and privileges of a really localized natural living space.